Okay everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're back on GT Sport and we're back with round one of the new season in the Manufacturers Championship. My first ever race driving for McLaren. Managed to put it on pole purely down to skill. Not, it was 100% fire that gave us this pole position. He gave me a massive slipstream all the way around the lap and luckily got myself on pole with my base lap. We didn't bother going for a second lap because fire backed out of it. I think it was sensible for him to do that. Instead of giving other people the slipstream, we decided not to carry on with the lap. And that meant I started on pole position with my base lap and in a very good position to pick up a decent result here. Now, obviously I did know that I didn't have the pace to really outpace Firestone, so it was pretty obvious the best thing for me to do would be to let him through as early as possible with as safely as possible as well, and try and tuck into his slipstream in this race. So starting from pole position, let's get this race underway and let's see if we can get ourselves into the top 5 by the end. Now I say top 5 because I'm not particularly great at this track. I think this is my first ever FIA race at this location and I've never done a daily race as far as I remember. Starting from pole position, which was quite nice. Now the McLaren is very, very strong in Group 4 in my personal opinion. It's not as OP as, like I say on the title of this video. However, it is a very good car. It's an underrated car in Group 4. Now, what you might be able to notice there is we were doing the hybrid split on the tyres. One thing about this McLaren is it can run mediums on the front and hards on the rear, which gives it incredible handling through the fast corners. And this gets rid of its compulsory usage of tyre. This race was a no-stop strategy, so it gave us really strong pace early on because the front end was so strong with them mediums on the front. So going through the first sector there, maintaining the lead. We're going to brake like normal here, try and take our normal line, braking quite late there, you can see, holding a very tight line into the apex and then getting on the power nice and early into second gear and working our way down straight. Now what you're going to see is I'm going to do a lot of short shifting with this McLaren because the best place to shift with the McLaren is about halfway on the bar that fills up, you see there. Shifting around halfway is actually the fastest way to get the speed out of this car. You get more acceleration, more speed, and it's not too bad at short shifting either if you short shift very, very early. The fuel isn't the best on this car, however, it's definitely quite a nice handling car and the tyre wear is pretty consistent and pretty decent for category. We're going to let Fire through there on the inside in his police car livery, looking very fast. Fire around this track again in the Jaguar as usual. Recently Fire the person to beat, so we're going to tuck in behind him and now try and stay with him for as long as possible in this race. As you see, he goes very aggressive through there. He manages to gain on me every time through that chicane, really pushes the limits. I wasn't quite so confident through there. Now we've got B Racer behind us with Calster behind B Racer, so the aim is really now to stay in this slipstream for as long as possible. I know I could stay in Fire's slipstream for quite a while, and I did know that the Jaguar actually did fade off towards the end of the race. However, I don't think I had the pace to match Fire over the whole race. I think it was always going to be a case that he was going to probably break the slipstream at some point in this race, but we're going to hang in there for as long as we can here. If we can get ourselves into the top 3 in this race from this position, we're very, very happy. Amazing behind quarter cars sweeping through that very fast corner there, looking extremely fast in these Group 4 cars around this track. As you see, a bit of a gap developed already. You can see 2 races already developing in this race because the way the slipstream works in this track. We're all picking up the slipstream from Fire there in Group 1, and then you have Manuel Rodri at the back of the pack there behind Carlson. You can see a bit of a gap in car, a bit of no man's land in between, and then another group of cars stuck behind there. So this is kind of working out quite nice. There is a group separating 5 cars in it, so if this carries on, you could have a situation where you're 5 to 6 seconds clear from the next group halfway through the race, which is very nice because then you're guaranteed a pretty reasonable finishing position, even though, like I say, the point system currently is not too great. Let's hope they sort something out in a future, a future FIA series. This is obviously going to stay like this for this whole season, which is fair enough, but I really hope they consider changing the point structure because it's not very good at the moment. As we again go through that chicane, you can see we lost a bit of time again to Fire. He's able to really carry speed. Also, B Racer really pushing through that section. That was probably my weakest corner, the chicane. I didn't have much confidence through there, and again I did find that I lost a little bit of time through this first few fast corners. I didn't feel quite so confident in getting close to the wall, but with not racing this track many times, obviously we did quite a lot of practice though. I have to admit we did a fair amount of races in practice because the daily races were pretty terrible this week, so we decided to do quite a lot of running on this track because it was more entertaining to do these races than it was to do the daily races. So while we were streaming, we thought, why not? We'll just get ourselves up to speed in a new car that we've never driven before. Now, we're going to jump ahead a lap here now, you see. B Racer behind us. Like I say, we've never driven this car before, so it's really important. It's not like we've been in this car for like a year. We've never driven McLaren really before. We've only driven it once in a race, I think, at Best of British, and we didn't do too well in that. We had a bit of a disaster as B Racer goes for a bit of a dive and then kind of brakes on the apex. I was a bit frustrated at that because he kind of halted my line through there. He took quite a deep line, and now Fire's going to give me the slipstream because I think, rightfully so, I think he knows that B Racer might be able to stay in the slipstream to himself a lot easier than what I can. So he gives me the slipstream down the straight, and that means with the extra power that McLaren has over the Honda is very weak on the straight. I think that B Racer went a little bit too early for that move. I think he could have waited a few laps. I would have let him through eventually once I felt that the benefit of my, I felt like I was going to lose the slipstream. I would have let him through. I wouldn't have fought it too much. I'm not the type of driver that will hinder my overall chance in picking up a reasonable result. But that I felt was a fair enough move, but it was a bit awkward the way he slowed the car down the apex. It really stopped myself from actually taking the tight line, even though that was the only line I had available. As we now following Fire, you can see that the gap has increased to 1.2 nearly seconds, 1.1. We're just about managing to hang it into the slipstream at the moment. Will I be able to stay in that slipstream as we go through this really fast flowing corners? This is the area where I tended to lose out again to Fire. He was so strong through these corners, considering that he's in the Jaguar, which probably not the fastest car through corners like this. As we come through here, you see again, have we managed to just about stay in the slipstream? It looks like I might have just done it there. I actually did that quite nicely, and now we're going to head off into the heavy braking zone of this tight hairpin. You can see again, I think this time that B Racer is not going to go for that move there. He's actually going to think twice about that one and just stay behind us and use my slipstream, because we're actually 1.1 seconds behind. We should be able to get under a second by the end of this straight, so it's another lap. We'll be able to take some pretty good race pace through this race. We're still trying to look after the tyres. One thing I did learn was, after watching the replay on this, I did actually watch Calster's driving style through him, and I've actually pretty much worked out why I was a lot more aggressive than he was on tyres, considering that he's on the pad as well. But Calster has come on a long way with pad, being able to save tyres incredibly well on the control pad. But one thing you'll see of me is I'm quite aggressive on downshifts and keeping quite a low gear through there, 4th gear. I did notice that Calster was staying in 5th gear all the way through that corner, and then through here he was staying in 4th gear, whereas I was going down to 3rd gear, which again is going to be putting more tyre wear on your car, and then an acceleration, you're putting more pressure on them front tyres. It's something that we need to look at for future races, is keeping them gears a little bit higher through the corners. Not only is that going to help tyre wear, it's also going to probably help with your fuel consumption. As you can see now in this race, we're starting to lose that slipstream to Fire in front. You can see it's pretty much lost at this point. He's 1.3 seconds ahead. Through here, he's probably going to break it because he's quite a bit stronger than me through here. 1.4, he's nearly at 1.5. So at this point, I decided we're going to let the Racer go, because he's probably going to be faster than me now. So he might be able to latch on to the slipstream of Fire. So I decided to put the slipstream, fuel mixture up to 6, and now tuck into B Racer's slipstream and do some fuel saving behind him, because it made more sense for me to have a car very close to keep my fuel saving under control. And also, when you're close in the slipstream, you can kind of try and brake a little bit earlier and try and also look after your front tyres, because when you've got that extra toe from the car, you're able to not push as much, and you can just be a bit more gentle through the corners. Obviously you pick up the dirty air, but in Group 4 you will find a lot of people prefer being in the slipstream rather than, say for example, Group 2, where everyone pretty much hates being in the slipstream. So working our way down the straight now, you can see the extra speed that McLaren has got over the Honda Racer. I was actually going to bump draft in there to push him up and try and drag us even further along and get us ahead of any of the groups that are coming, but he thought I was going to go for a move. I was actually going to bump draft him, which is fair enough. Maybe he might not have wanted me to actually bump draft him there, but it would have been, I think he might have been able to just jump into that slipstream. But now you can see that we're just outside that slipstream range. He really tried to push through there, but even though I think Fire there also pushed and has kept himself out of the range of that slipstream. You can see we're 7 tenths behind. We're 2.4 behind Fire, so Fire is outside that slipstream range, and now we've got Calster behind. In the McLaren, obviously, I think he was a lot faster than me around this combination. He definitely had better race pace, there was no question of that. I was just basically looking to stay in the slipstream for as long as possible, because I couldn't keep the tyres alive for as long as what Calster could do, and also his fuel saving was better because he was going in higher gears through some of the corners, which was then having a knock-on effect of meaning that his fuel was a lot better than mine. So going into this hairpin now, is he going to go for a move into the braking? He has a little look up the inside there, which kind of puts me off a little bit. I thought he was going to go for it there, but not really in position. I give him a little bit of space on the inside, and we're able to keep ourselves in P3 this time. While we're in P3 and B Racer hasn't got the slipstream, I didn't really want to let him through at the earliest opportunity, because I wanted to be in a situation where if anyone makes a mistake in the last few laps, we might be able to jump ourselves into P2. So we're going to skip ahead now to lap 9. You can see he's managed to stay quite close to B Racer still. Calster's still in the slipstream, not really that close. He's close behind, but he's not really in a position to make a move into the hairpin at this point. We're going to now accelerate off down into the hairpin. You can see Calster just about under 2 tenths behind. I didn't think he'd go for a move here. But watch what he does. He kind of fakes a move. He looks down that inside, but he's not actually intending to make a move. A very clever move by Calster. I thought he was going to go for a move. Braked a bit later than I should have done. Tried to carry speed into the corner so we could go side by side, and actually penalised myself. If I would have just braked normally, I think I would have got a better exit. Now I think this was a mistake by B Racer. He gave the slipstream to Calster. Now, what he may not have known was that Calster's pace was a lot better than mine, and that Calster was more than likely going to be able to jump him fairly easily, because I knew for a fact that Calster had been able in practice races that we had done that his tyre saving and his fuel saving was a lot better than mine. So you can see he's trying to give both of us a slipstream to make us battle through this corner, but I'm on the outside. There's no point in me battling Calster. He's got that position. And at this point, I kind of knew that was probably going to be a mistake by B Racer, because I think that Calster has got a lot more speed. You can see even through the chicane, he's got a lot more confidence on the power and carrying speed through some of these corners than what I did. So for me at the moment, we're just going to tuck back into P4 and try and hang on to this position now. Now, at the end of the day, we started pole, but it wouldn't be the worst position considering I'm not a massive fan of this track. So in P4, I was quite happy to take this position if it ended up being in P4 at the end of the race, to be honest. But we're going to hang into the slipstream, like I say, hold on for as long as I can as we work our way through this winding section again, section that I tended to lose a tenth or so, but doing it reasonably well. You can see the front tyres are starting to suffer quite a bit on that. You can see it on the telemetry on the HUD, that the front tyres are wearing a bit more than they should. However, even though they're wearing, I still think they were in better. In terms of driving, I felt more comfortable with the tyres like this than with hards all round, because the mediums just provide that extra bit of grip. So through fast corners, you just, even with the wear on the front now, they're kind of equaling off to what hards would be like anyway. So at this stage, we've done 10 laps and we're still probably faster than what we would be even if we were driving with hards all round. So this is why this strategy was the OP strategy really. But look at Calster all over B Racing. Calster really getting to grips with this McLaren and really suiting his driving style. I think he's able to save the tyres really well. So I decided while they're battling, no point me pushing on and making that a freeway fight. I'll just sit behind, save some fuel. Calster's going to get that position. I did predict it. I said it on the stream. He's going to end up jumping B Racer. So I think that B Racer's decision to try and give Calster the slipstream has backfired there a little bit. I think he would have been better trying to give me it, because I was quite happy to sit behind him in the laps that you didn't see. We actually flashed him a few times just to say, you know, carry on with your way. I'm not going to fight you. I know that your pace is better now. So maybe a mistake by B Racer there to try and give Calster the slipstream down that straight, because now he's stuck in P3 and he's right behind obviously Calster going into this braking zone, and Calster obviously very strong through here with good tyre wear, done a great job on his tyres as we go into the braking zone. And what you see there is B Racer gave Calster just a tiny little tap into the entry, and Calster then just tapped the wall. It was no loss of time. He tapped the wall the tiniest amount, and B Racer has been given a 5-second penalty. This is the penalty system that needs fixing on this game. Polyphony, look what is happening in these races. No one got any loss of time. No one really came to any harm in this race. It was a tiniest little touch. Not even anything happened really at all. But B Racer has had his race completely ruined at this phase of the race. Just watch how much this 5 seconds is going to cost him. So 5 seconds on this track, because you're going quite fast where the penalty zone is, and it's a completely long straight now, he's going to probably lose about 7 seconds. It's not like it's just before a braking zone. It is right in the middle of a massive straight, so he's going to lose 7+ seconds, 7.5, maybe nearly 8 seconds there. So I really hope they do something about that. These like penalties where if a car hits a wall after being hit, they can be, you know, we've known about this for months now, and it can be abused by drivers. Not obviously, Kousa didn't abuse that. That was 100% just a random penalty by the way the game creates them. But it's something they need to look at, because it's open for abuse by drivers, and there are drivers out there that do abuse this penalty system. So Polyphony, get this penalty system sorted as soon as possible, because you've had long enough now. We need this sorted. We don't want to see these penalties in the game anymore. It's ruining some of these races. But for me, obviously in this race it's actually worked out quite nicely. I'm now up to P3 with a massive gap to B Racer. All I had to do now was just sit in Kousa's slipstream. We managed to do that all the way up to lap 15, just taking it basically easy and using the straights to try and save to jump back up to the back of Kousa. But Kousa's tyre management was a lot better. Obviously myself being in the slipstream behind drivers after pretty much the whole race might not have helped my tyre wear quite so well. Maybe taking a bit of the front life out of them because of the way that we've obviously been suffering with dirty air and that. It does help you on the straights, but it might use a bit more tyre life on through the corners. Kousa obviously now had some clean air for a few laps. He's been out in that lead for 4 or 5 laps, managing to look after his tyres a lot better. And I did actually hit the wall there, which lost me a bit of momentum through this section. You can see that Kousa jumped to over a second there, 1.1. And at this stage, I'm thinking to myself, my fuel is looking quite low. I need to possibly start concentrating on my fuel. So down this straight, we're going to try and stay with him as long as possible. You'll see, trying to take a very tight line through there and get on the power nice and early to get back into that slipstream range. Because if I can get back to 9/10 behind him, and then the final lap, we're just going to take it easy. There was no point me really pushing. I think I said live on the stream, there's no point me. I can see the fuel being very low. We've got a 13-second lead to P4. There's no point me risking running out of fuel and then possibly losing this P3 position. So P2 and P3 for McLaren. Like I say, this McLaren is an underrated car on certain tracks. I think a lot of people don't even consider using it. Now the reason I say this is because in Interlagos, I think that this car starting from pole position would have been very strong as well. We didn't try it from pole position, we tried it only at the back of the grid, and at the back of the grid this McLaren was very, very strong. It was a really nice car to drive, very well balanced, good through corners, good on tyre wear. You can run the bias all the way to the rear and it's still drivable, which for an MR car is not always the case. So that is why also you can do the tyre split and it works really well, as you see now. Pretty much just letting Kousa go, no point in fighting this. You can see 1.4 seconds back, 1 lap to go. We're not going to push too hard. We can see the fuel is a bit of an issue. I've obviously used a bit too much fuel in this race, maybe going down into gears that I shouldn't be going into. I think also through this section Kousa was only going into 5th gear, he wasn't going into 4th like I was. So another area where I could have probably looked after the tyres better and also looked after the fuel management better through this section. But at this point now, no point pushing on and running out of fuel. Like I say, we're just tucked in behind and taking this P3 in this race. So quite a solid performance. It's looked like you can see that Kousa is actually getting very, very close to FIA on this final lap. This is because the McLaren's so strong at the end of the race. If you've looked after your tyres, obviously FIA driving the Jaguar, also with the hybrid tyre split like ourselves. FR car a lot worse on tyres. The Jaguar is not brilliant on tyres, although FIA's ability to look after tyres has really excelled recently, doing an amazing job, getting very close to lightning levels of tyre management and also race pace as well. So done a great job in this race. We're coming back through now, putting that mixture into level 3 because we don't want to risk running out of fuel in the final. You see, we've got a 12-second into P4, a very solid run for our first ever driving in the McLaren. Kousa doing a great job also in McLaren, picking up a P2. Some brilliant points. A great thing about P3 is I don't think the split 2 can jump you with their points. However, obviously later on in the later on races can still get higher for obviously slot 2 and slot 3 etc. for the top split. So go through the final corner. We're happy with this, 100% happy with our performance. Drove it fairly clean, not many mistakes. We could have probably stayed in FIA slipstream for a little bit longer without the battle with B Racer. We lost that ability to get within 5/10 before the chicane. Once we lost that ability, we kind of fell back, and then that unfortunate penalty for B Racer was not very nice to see at all. He probably did deserve P3, but at the end of the day, we ended up in P3. We drove a solid race and quite fast finishing times there. 21 by FIA. I backed off a bit at the end, finished on 26 seconds, so not too bad at all, and picked up 325 points on this new point system. Now, there are issues with this point system. Like I say, we're going to concentrate on that in a separate video, but for now we're happy with that and we'll move on to the next round. Hope you enjoyed that video. Make sure you hit that like button and also hit the subscription button on screen at the moment, and also check out some other videos from the past if you want to check them out now. Thanks again for watching, everyone.